The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Rutland again, everybody. Now, in this particular episode, I was hoping to get a few shots of a very interesting landmark and something we don't see very much of, quite frankly. There you go, there's a clue. A theatre. There's a theatre out here in the sticks, basically. It's a place called Tolethorpe Hall. Now, unfortunately, I can't actually get any shots myself of it because it's closed for the winter season, unfortunately. It's definitely okay in the summer, though. So this first section of the video is going to be explaining all about the theatre and why it's here, basically. This is the parish of Little Casterton. Little Casterton, Roman fortress, small. Continuing through Rutland, today we have the second of the Casterton twins. Welcome everyone to Little Casterton, about 2 miles north of Stamford, on a minor road that runs to the south of the River Gwash. On the face of it, Little Casterton doesn't have anywhere near as much as its bigger brother. It's a linear village that has effectively just a church and not much else. There are some nice cottages and what have you, and it's a pleasant, peaceful little place to live, but in terms of village life, it can't hold a candle to some of the others around here. Or at least, that's what you'd likely think if you didn't know about Tolethorpe Hall. Located about half a mile to the northeast of the village, Tolethorpe Hall is a 17th century mansion where Robert Brown, the founder of the Brownist movement, was born in the 1550s. Since 1977, it's been used as the location of an open-air Shakespearean theatre. In this video, we're going to delve deep into the history of both the hall and the theatre. Little Casterton is also famous for two other reasons. Firstly, the Little Casterton Working Weekend is held in the village each September, when veteran and vintage agricultural machinery is showcased in a working context. Secondly, in 1968, the Rutland Dinosaur was discovered here in a quarry. The bones of the beast, one of the most complete dinosaur skeletons ever found in the UK, can now be seen in the Leicester Museum, an art gallery. So in short, this'll be a good one. Let's get going. We start in the north of the parish with Tolethorpe Hall. Although the hall was largely built in the 16th century originally, this place has history that spans over 1,000 years. The site was originally called Tolethorpe, named after its first inhabitant, Tolly, the Dane. A Norman family arrived in 1086 and built a manor house on the site. In 1316, Matilda de Tolethorpe married Sir Nicholas Burton, a knight of the Shire of Rutland. For 800 years, from 1088 until 1839, it was the home of three distinguished families: the de Tolethorpes, the Burtons, and the Browns. The Burtons were soldiers and knights of the realm and fought for many kings in their time. One of them, Sir Thomas Burton, fought at the Battle of Agincourt as part of the Duke of York's entourage. For his efforts, he was granted the hundred of Little Casterton, comprising Little Casterton itself and the villages of Ryhall, Belmsthorpe, Essendine, Tinwell, Ingthorpe, Tickencote, and Tolethorpe, an area of nearly 10,000 acres. Robert Brown, the founder of the Brownist movement, was born in Tolethorpe Hall in the 1550s. The Brownists were early advocates of a congregational form of organisation for the Church of England. They were well known to Shakespeare, and they even got a mention in Twelfth Night. Fast forward to 1864, when Charles Ormston Eaton, a Stamford banker, purchased the estate and reconstructed the hall and gardens. It was Eaton who added its large east wing and another smaller one to the west. He also laid out the grounds as you see them today. The Burnaby Atkins family would then lease the hall from the Eatons between 1920 and 1967. After that, its fortunes declined a bit. The estate was broken up into separate lots and sold off. The hall and 7 acres of land was sold to a property developer who planned to turn it into a casino. However, that venture failed and the developer went bankrupt. For a decade, the hall sat empty and was allowed to fall into disrepair. That's not the case now though, because in 1977 it was put firmly back on the map by a theatre company. In 2012, they restored the roof of the hall, a project that cost £500,000. The theatre company have added some interesting bits to the hall as well. It has 2 stained glass windows designed and made by the Cambridge artist Tim Armstrong. The windows are believed to be the only examples anywhere in the world of stained glass depicting scenes from 8 Shakespeare plays. And speaking of plays, you can enjoy one here too. The Stamford Shakespeare Company was founded in 1968 by RADA graduate Jean Harley. They originally produced plays in the monastery garden of Stamford's historic George Hotel to raise money for the creation of the Stamford Arts Centre and the restoration of the Georgian Theatre in St Mary's Street. When, due to building work, the hotel could no longer accommodate the company, a new venue had to be found, and that's where Tolethorpe Hall comes in. Quite by chance, a member of the company was sitting in an estate agent's office when the instruction was received to put the hall up for sale. On the same day, after some frantic telephone calls, a few members, including Harley, visited the site. The grounds were overgrown after 9 years of neglect, but just beyond the hall, they found a perfect natural amphitheatre. It was a grassy, weed-covered bank opposite a clear space large enough for a stage. After much work, the result was this: the Rutland Open Air Theatre, which takes its name from the county, of course. However, despite no longer being in Stamford, the company name remained the same, because it becomes so well known in the town. The opening season at Tolethorpe Hall saw the productions of Macbeth and The Taming of the Shrew. Members who recall the early days describe it as a chance happening which began with no grand ambitions and no business plan, just a love of Shakespeare. The company has since gone from strength to strength. The theatre itself has seen many changes. In 1993, its seating capacity was increased from 450 to 600, and a permanent canopy was erected over the auditorium to protect the audience. The canopy is made of a high tensile PVC-coated fabric, and it's designed to withstand winds of up to 100 miles an hour. It was manufactured in Germany. In 2002, a 30-foot-high gantry was erected to enable actors to fly across the stage in that year's production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Since then, stage lights have been hung from that gantry, which has significantly increased the number of lighting effects possible for each production. In 2005, a trap room was built beneath the stage to provide access to it from below, and this has been used to great effect every year since. The company has a unique tradition of not taking curtain calls. The success of each production relies on an army of unseen people who give generously their time and expertise. It was Jean Harley's belief that applause at the end of the performance should not just be for the actors on the stage, but for the entire company of people who work so hard to make it all possible. Okay, so here we are then in Little Casterton village. There's not a lot to this, I'll be honest with you. This is probably one of the smallest ones we've done so far in Rutland, and that does include Pickworth, to be honest with you. It's basically just one street, as you can see here. There it is before me, and it's up a hill, sort of. It's not the biggest hill in the world, but it's definitely a hill. So we're going to go up there to where the church is. It's a nice little loop I can form thanks to a footpath. I hope it's not boggy like the one in Great Casterton was yesterday. We'll soon find out. And that's basically it, just the church and these wonderful houses of stone, which you can see is basically all there is to Little Casterton. So let's get on with it. Now we're in Little Casterton village. It's tiny, a fact only amplified by considering the size of its much larger neighbour. Little Casterton has a population of about 150. It's a mile or so from the much larger village of Ryhall. You would call Little Casterton a hamlet, but for the fact it has a church and is therefore officially a village. Let's make our way to that church now and see what it's like. I spoke to one Rutland local before coming here, who told me that Little Casterton's church is the epitome of secret. Okay, so this is the footpath that's going to turn this into a loop. It's going to end up in the churchyard, I've got to turn left at some point though. I've got to look at it on Strava so I actually know where to go. Now, the reason I've stopped here at the entrance to the footpath is because if you look in the very far distance, you can see some trees over there. Now, that's where the open air theatre is. It's kind of in that sort of clump over there. I do believe that this path actually passes the back of it, but there's no way I'm going all the way up there because I don't know sort of how the land lies with actually filming the place. So yeah, I was going to ask somebody at the theatre if I could you know, take a few shots of it, but with it being closed, I can't do that at the moment. So unfortunately, you've had the bit at the beginning. You've got enough of that. So we'll follow this path until the point I have to turn left, and it'll take us to the church, and then we'll just make our way back to the beginning. Unbeknown to me at the time, this footpath actually crosses a cricket ground, which I knew nothing about. This is the home ground of Tolethorpe Park Cricket Club. Dedicated to All Saints, this church has a long history that includes the construction of several parts over time. In the 11th century, a priest was mentioned in the Domesday Book, indicating the presence of a church back then. It's known that in the 12th century, the church was a simple structure with a nave and a chancel, but it was added to later on. The bellcote and the clerestory were in existence by the end of the 15th century, and in the 19th, several bits have been extended, including the chancel and the north aisle. The church remains one of the smallest in Rutland and doesn't have a tower. It has two bells, one made by Tobias Norris and the other of unknown origin. The church also has stained glass windows by Christopher Wall, including one in the east window that commemorates Hubert Eaton, he of the Eaton family, who lived at Tolethorpe Hall. Inside the church, you'll find a bit of a mystery: the little Casterton imp. This cheeky little figure is all on his own. His feet are damaged, but a full-length figure like this is not terribly common. He looks as though he was designed to be located in an angle somewhere, but why would there only be one carving, and why would he be laid on his side? The north aisle was rebuilt in 1810, so it seems possible he was moved there at that time, but that doesn't explain where he came from. Also, what is he doing? Is he dancing? Kicking a ball? Whatever he is, he's every bit as much fun as his more famous cousin in Lincoln Cathedral. Now, just before we finish this episode off, we have to talk about the Williamson Cliff Quarry. As we know, limestone has been heavily quarried in this county, and Little Casterton is no exception to that rule. That said, Williamson Cliff would have otherwise been just a standard limestone quarry had it not been for the discovery of a skeleton. The fossil bones of a dinosaur were found in the quarry in 1968. The beast is a Cetiosaurus, and he'd been buried for 168 million years. Cetiosaurus belonged to a group called sauropods, more commonly known as brontosaurs. The species had 4 strong legs, long necks, small heads, and long tails. When alive, Cetiosaurus weighed 9 tons. In comparison, the largest land animal today, the African elephant, only weighs between 4 and 7. Adult Cetiosauruses could live to 200 years old. It's believed that this little guy was not fully grown though. 15 metres long, his bones can be seen in the Leicester Museum and Gallery, where they've been since 1975. Less than half of the skeleton is made up of the real fossils, but even so, he still remains the most complete sauropod ever found in Europe. 2 years ago, another dinosaur was found in Rutland. I'll be sure to tell you about that one though, when we get to the parish in question. Okay, we're pretty much all the way around Little Casterton now, just got to make a few more steps back to the car and we are done. Speaking of the car, the last little bit I want to do here in Little Casterton is cover a place called Toll Bar. Now that gives us a clue as to how life used to be on the Great North Road. There's no toll booths these days, but of course there used to be. So let's go and see what's down there to finish. To end with, we're driving away from the village back towards Great Casterton, and in doing so we pass through a small hamlet called Tolethorpe. This is not much more than just a collection of houses and a former Methodist chapel, and it sits in the extreme west of the parish. It's sometimes known as Newtown. With both Castertons done, it's now time to head north up the A1 to a place that has another historic hall. See you there tomorrow. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.